I didn't see this reported anywhere in English. Okay? This is an article from Berliner Zeitung, from Germany, from Berlin, and it is absolutely staggering. So let me walk you through this, because it's about Nord Stream 2, right? Everyone is wondering who blew it up. Well, we already know who stands to gain from this. It's certainly not Russia. Russia paid for Nord Stream 2. They had, they were making lots of money from gas and oil sales. There's literally no incentive. But let's see what's going on, because remember, Nord Stream goes from Russia to Germany, but Denmark and Sweden also have a role to play in the investigation because it goes through their exclusive economic areas. This is Sarah Wagenknecht. She's a German politician in the left, in Die Linke. Okay, and she's I suppose what you might say in English is a progressive, right? I mean, she's certainly better than most people in her party. And she asked the German government. She asked specifically the foreign ministry and the Habeck, he's the economic minister. She asked the Ministry of Economics and the foreign ministry about who blew up Nord Stream 2. Okay, she asked them. Because, this is normal. You can see parliamentarians in the UK or wherever asking their government questions, and sometimes they'll give them an answer and sometimes not. And guess what? They didn't tell her. So she asked, do you know if there were any NATO ships in the area of Nord Stream 1 and 2 when they were blown up? And the German government told her that their security relationship with other countries, their intelligence sharing, supersedes her right to know as a German politician and parliamentarian. Right? So basically they're telling her this is too secret for you to know. Even you who are a government, not minister, but she's in parliament. So they wouldn't tell her about NATO ships being in the area. And then the other question that she asked if they had any signs, any warning signs about an imminent attack, okay? And if they actually did anything about that. And they also gave her the same answer. No, we can't tell you because it's too delicate to talk about. It would compromise our security relationship with other countries and the well-being of the state, Staatswohl, right? So the whole article's in German, but basically I'm giving you the main points here. And she also asked them about whether there's an investigation going on, whether there is an ongoing investigation, and if they have, found a culprit, a suspect, any leads. And for that one, they gave her an answer which was very limited. They said that actually, no, there is no ongoing investigation on site, which is weird because, I mean, where else would you investigate, right? Like you would have to go on site. Whether it's in Germany, at the end of Nord Stream 2, or it's in the sea of Nord Stream 1. But they said there's no on-site investigation and they don't have any leads. Why would the German government conceal this information? Doesn't this strike you as very bizarre that this is not mentioned anywhere in English media? This whole article, all of this, that she, Sarah Wagenknecht, asked the government who blew up Nord Stream 2 and they won't tell her. Nowhere. I only saw this here in Berliner Zeitung and some other German outlets, but it's not reported in English. This is really weird. The Danish government, just yesterday, this is October 18th, they said that, quote, powerful explosions, unquote, were at the origin of Nord Stream 2. So the investigation of the 26th September ruptures, that's a nice way of putting it, of Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines in Denmark's exclusive economic zone are being handled by Copenhagen police and Denmark's Security and Intelligence Service. So the Copenhagen police said that it is still too early to say anything about the framework under which the international cooperation with Sweden and Germany will run, as it depends on several actors. I'll get into this part in a second about the joint investigation. But they're saying that Swedish journalists were given permission to image one of the Nord Stream explosion sites using an underwater drone. Caution, again, listening to the impending wave of explosions experts on Twitter. Well, we don't need that because we have actual seismologists who gave their take, and Danish, Swedish, Polish, German governments who all said it's a blast. So there you go. That you can see how it's ruptured, right? I mean, it's leaking methane gas into the surface I think it's stopped now, but at least when the blast happened, the leaking methane gas, which is like 30 times worse for the environment than CO2. So this Swedish sources claim that the hole is up to 8 meters long and could only have been caused by explosives. See that? Only could have been caused by explosives. So this confirms, what we heard before when the attack itself happened, right? You had all of these governments, all of these seismologists and scientists that arrived at the same conclusion that it's not possible this was a natural event. There are too many blasts, too far apart, and it's very obviously man-made. These were acts of sabotage, and so these investigations now, after a couple of weeks, are yielding the same result. The thing is, though, Sweden is refusing to hold a joint investigation with Denmark and Germany. Okay, so just let me clarify what that means. They are investigating the Nordstream attacks. They are cooperating with them. Okay, they're cooperating together because, once again, these blasts happened and affect all of their territories. But they are not running a joint investigation with them, which I imagine implies full disclosure on intelligence matters and so on. So they're just working with each other a bit, but it's not every country is basically running its own investigation. Denmark, Sweden, Germany. So Sweden doesn't want to do that because it would have to share information from its own investigation that it deemed confidential. You see, that's why they don't want to do a joint investigation. Quote, this is because there is information in our investigation that is subject to confidentiality directly linked to national security. So this is kind of the same thing that the German government told Sarah Wagenknecht, that, we just can't do this and divulge this information to you because we have, relationships with other countries. And this makes you think of course, like Five Eyes. Five Eyes is the US, the UK, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, and they share intelligence with each other. I think they're really just sharing it with the US. But the idea is that, if one country that you're allied with gives you some information, or they are implicated in this event, you can't share that because it's too sensitive, right? For example, let me just give you an example, and I don't think this is far-fetched whatsoever, but if it's the British who did it, or the Americans, and it very, very likely is, because they were holding drills in that exact area, they have the technology to do this, and they have the motive. They might have relationships in terms of sharing intelligence with Germany, with Denmark, with Sweden, and other security arrangements, and were these countries to divulge who was behind it, the British and the Americans would say, okay, screw you. We're cutting off your support for this. We're cutting this off. They're just not going to do it because it's not in their interests to upset the culprits. And think about what that means, because if Russia did this, which the mainstream media are saying, why wouldn't they rush out and say it was Russia? Even Biden refused to do it, right? He was asked, do you blame Russia for this? And he just dodged the question because this lie is so big, no one actually dares to utter it because it's lunacy. The only people that are accusing Russia of doing it are the mainstream media because they're dogs, they're lapdogs, and they do the bidding of the governments. They're a mouthpiece for the government when the government can't say it, right? When the Israelis go and bomb Syria, they don't say we bombed Syria. They say we refuse to comment, and then the media go and justify the bombing for them. You understand? So, once again, we have confirmation this was man-made. It was sabotage. The information about who did this blast, who sabotaged Nord Stream 1 and 2 is so sensitive that Wagenknecht was told to go away by her own government, right? Even though she's a serving politician, parliamentarian. The Danes, the Swedes, the Germans won't do a joint investigation because the information is so sensitive they can't share it with each other. And they have so far not accused the Russians of doing it because who knows what the Russians have on them, but and how the Russians would respond. It's just the lie is so big, they can't do it. And if just think logically, these countries, do they care about Russia? Does Sweden secretly care about Russia? Does Germany secretly care about Russia? I mean, they do to a certain extent, but the governments I'm talking about, right? They don't. They're not going to cover for Russia. They would actually gladly come out and say it was Russia if they actually had any proof, but they don't. And that's why they refuse to divulge any information because they're hiding something. And we all know what they're hiding.